Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. So today I'm unboxing the rather awesome new Chaos Knight Army set. I'm going to take you through the box contents, then a very long, rambly book section which you can happily skip if you want and get straight into the model build and showcase at the end. Very excited for this one as I've got a massive Chaos Knight army. So yeah, hope you enjoy it as much as I have. Let's get into this set. Just an observation, I said on the last unboxing I did last week for the Ashway set, that it was great how they were not shrink wrapping it and just using some of those eggshell stickies, if that's the right one, just to hold the box together. Odd then that a week later they're doing an unboxing and it's back to shrink wrap. Not a massive problem though. Now, I suppose first thing we notice is obviously the new Knight version that they've got is taking pride of place in the front of this army box with some nice kind of background artwork there of destroying a Primaris dreadnought. Get in. Let's see what we see. So I'm greeted by a mountain of grey plastic. Fantastic. So this is the new Knight, but the actual initial sprue, which you'd expect for common sense reasons, is the same as the old Knight sprue. So that's fine. I'm imagining there's going to be a rather nice upgrade sprue, which we'll see shortly. Second sprue is the same. That's set already existing. So if you built a Chaos Knight, the actual core of this build is going to be obviously the same as you've had before, and this looks to be the weapon upgrade sprue, or one of them. Must be a second one somewhere with whatever that weapon's called. I've not got the book in front of me obviously open yet. Some nice, that's the tail I think piece we're going on there. We've got the new weapon arm here, three very nice pieces of plastic there, that's particularly big, and the large relic weapon that we can have on there. It looks like there's going to be an option for two, unless that forms the barrel of, I think, and then this goes in. So some very nice big weapons, a couple of optional different heads that we can use, and the birds, which I know there's going to be rules for obviously because this is a psychic Knight. So very nice kind of third sprue. I imagine there's going to be a fourth somewhere, so let's skip past the war dogs and see if there is the fourth, or is that it? Ah yeah, here's the fourth weapon. So this goes back to, again, the original Knight sprue that you'll be used to if you've built a Chaos Knight before. So three standard Knight sprues that you've already seen, and the fourth is the new upgrade sprue, and very nice indeed it is. Now the great thing about that is, it means if you're going to build it with the upgrade weapons, and why wouldn't you, that's what you've obviously picked the army box up for, it's going to give you lots and lots of spares, which is great. We like spares for conversion work and that type of thing. The war dogs. Now this is the new hull, so we've got the new hull and the new top carapace on there. A lot of the rest of this sprue looks very, very similar to the pieces, so it's going to build in the same way, but with the different obviously weapon options that you can get. I'm going to do a full build of these for the end of this video, so obviously stick around for that if you want to see how the models have gone together. And this is the, it's a totally different sprue as well. So actually the war dogs is a whole new set of sprues, because these are the new heads that obviously you get on this current war dog, and different weapon arms, because on the old war dog, which you obviously had to convert up from an imperial one, the actual weapons, the lance that you had was built up of various different parts, and this is a totally different part set. So actually really nice to see that we finally, the Chaos players have got their own actual war dog that doesn't require kit bashing up from the imperial. I was half expecting this to be an imperial war dog with an add-on sprue, which is really nice to see. It's a totally different sprue set. Looks really nice, looking forward to build that, and obviously I will give my feedback on how the build goes. And a really nice piece of artwork. These are only in obviously to divide up the miniatures from the book so you don't damage any books in there, but it is some really nice artwork. This one's obviously damaged, but I'm not going to frame it or do anything with it, so that's absolutely fine. If anyone listening does happen to want this piece of artwork and isn't going to buy it, drop a comment, DM me on Instagram, and I'll post it out to you. I won't charge you anything, but if anyone does fancy it, bear in mind a couple of little nicks, but I can stick it in a tube and send it to you if anyone fancies it. And the other side of that is just the same, but with the barcode that obviously must be their packing list when they're scanning it. So there we go, very good. And we have the book and the cards. So, and a lot of plastic again. So it felt like we've been moving away from excess use of plastic in the sets, which is great ecologically, instructions there. But in here, an awful lot of plastic just for this set, that they could have got away with some sort of cardboard divider, I would have thought, but who am I to say that one? Transfer sprue, we've seen this before. This is the old one that's been out with the Knights for a number of years. That's, again, fine, nice transfers. Again, don't particularly use them ever. If you've watched the channel, you'll see what I do with my Knights, a lot of kit bashing. So, lots for the same thing again. If anyone does fancy these, give us a yell. I'll post them to you. As long as I'm not posting to some foreign country, it's going to cost me a fortune. But you know, if you're willing to wait a few months for it to go by a boat, then feel free. Bases are bases. These are standard size. We've seen these, so again, very nice. And the cards. So I suppose what you're getting in this being an army set, rather than if you were to wait for the actual release, is you're getting the cards for free with different artwork on the front, I would believe. I think these are going to come out in a couple of weeks, and the artwork on the book is variant artwork to what you're going to get. So very, very nice artwork there, and reflects obviously the box cover. Chainsaw in a dreadnought in half. Fantastic. What we'll do is we'll zoom in, we'll do a different camera angle, and we'll take a closer look at the book and the cards. Now then, the book and the cards. You'll notice these are unshrink wrapped. I did film the whole unshrink wrapping of the cards, the book, talked through it, got to the end, realised I hadn't recorded. So joyfully, I'll go through it again. I'm sure I'll probably look at completely different things than I looked at the first time. So here we go. Let's crack on through these. Very nice card set, some nice artwork at the back with obviously the falling dark mechanicum type of thing on most of these, and there are some variant artworks at the back for, you know, your psychic power cards, which is obviously new to the Knights, and some of the stratagems that are on there. So psychic powers, I think, is the interesting piece that we're all looking at. Stratagems, it's going to take a lot of time to dig into these to really work out, one, what's changed, two, what's gone through, but we'll refer to those in the book when we get there, I am sure. So psychic powers, very nice. I mean, coruscating hate, look at this. Witchfire, warp charge value of 6, manifested the closest enemy unit within 18 inches, visible to the psyker, suffers D3 mortal wounds, roll a D6, 2 to 3, closest other enemy unit within 6, invisible, suffers a mortal, 4+, it suffers D3. So you get that off, you are hitting, you know, potentially between 4 and 6 mortal wounds. Very, very nice. And I can imagine multiple Knights will be used. And the stratagems, again, I'm not a massively strategic 40k player, play for the fun. Stratagems are very useful, but I too do tend to use a lot of the pre-game stratagems because I find them quite easy, but there can be some particularly powerful combos, as we all see, and they can be clearly game winning. Let's get into the book. As I said before in a lot of my videos, this is not going to be a massive rules update giving you all the kind of really cool stuff in here and how to win your games. This is my first look through a book, talking you through what jumped into my mind, and that will bound to be, and it's bound to be related to obviously what Knight Army I'm doing. So let's dig in. Lovely artwork, you keep saying. That looks like the artwork from the original Chaos Knights book, so quite good to be doing that. Introduction obviously gives you all the usual spiel. Every time I see the artwork, it's really, really nice. Lots and lots of really cool background into what the Knights are, as every codex starts off with, which is great. It gives you, you know, a real in-depth feel of what you are going for. Chaos Knight worlds, excellent. And I'm liking the variant artwork around the tops, iconoclast houses. So I know in this one we're told that they can get blessings of Nurgle and Khorne and all those kind of things, so that'll be nice to see that. This is looking more Nurglish. Lots and lots of background, which I really, really enjoy. You know, I know people complain about the price of the codexes, but in terms of the quality of the artwork, quality, the background and the writing you get in there, you know, they are a decent read. Yeah, it's going to be out of date probably in 3 months when they do an errata, but at the moment, lovely. And it gives you the obviously ideas where the emblems and things are going to go, which is nice. And the different houses, so House Lucaris, House Herpetrax, and that's a lovely colour scheme. This matches very much to my Nurgle scheme, which I'll show you later when we're going to the actual rules section. And if you've not checked out on the channel before, I do a lot of Nurgle Knights and conversions and those kind of things, so do have a look at that if you fancy. House Korvax, House Vextrix. So it's all the houses. I think all these have been mentioned before at some point somewhere. Very cornate, very apt, I suppose, for when the new Khorne book comes out. And then into the timeline, I believe this is, yeah, telling you when a lot of this happened. But Millennium 36, the former Freeblade known as Hope Shroud. So it's, there's some different rules I've kind of heard about using Knights in Chaos armies. that you don't lose your abilities of the whole Chaos Army that you add the knights into, so that'll be interesting to see. Obviously they're focusing quite a lot in the painted artwork on the new knights and war dogs, as you would expect, and they are very, very nice when you get to some of the new stuff, so we'll see that later. This one's obviously the new knight torso, because that's the new carapace and the new face. That's definitely a new face plate, some of the new bits, but obviously using old style weapons, which clearly is going to be an option when you look at those pieces that are in there, so that's really good. Like that really nice weapon fit. Still can't decide what to build mine as, so I'm going to build these after we've done the read through, and I'll show you there. Probably ripe for doing some magnetisation actually, with depending how you can equip them weapon option wise, but it looks like there's quite a few weapon options you can give them with. That's obviously a pure combat one. Some beautiful artwork in this book and beautiful examples of painted models, really good. Okay, let's get through to the meat of it and find the rules. And there we go. So we have the army rules. Again, like I said before, I'm not going to go massively through it. It's just going to do what is going to come to me. So it's just going to give you the obviously army rules, Battleforge rules, Crusade. Not that's something I play. And there we go. So detachment rules, detachment abilities. I just want to look at the one where we can add a Dreadblade in. So yeah, I think this is it. So Fallen Hero. If this detachment is a super heavy auxiliary detachment that contains one Dreadblade unit, to the end of the battle, that unit gains Agent of Chaos, which, yeah, it does not prevent Chaos units in your army from using any rules that require every model of your army to have the same keyword: Contagions of the Nurgle, Kabbalistic, Rituals, etc. So really good that you can drop a knight into it, and you can absolutely see that is going to happen all over the place. And then we have the thing to remember with Chaos Knight armies, like a lot of Chaos armies and a lot of any army nowadays, is a lot of rules that stack to each other, and you do have to read carefully or else you're going to flick through and miss something. So dreaded abilities, this is new. Some abilities in this book are, that's obviously the symbol for it, dreaded abilities, which affect enemy models or units within dread range. So, not cumulative, all rules. So dread range, 12 inches at the start of the battle. I'm assuming as way it can be altered. So another rule you've got to kind of remember, to do with your household bonds. So here's the dread households. As you've seen the background, now we're seeing the specific rules for them. And it tends to break on this, where you'll get your ambition and a bond, and then you've got some strategies that you can use at the bottom there. So that's a kind of similar layout to how it was before. They probably, you know, changed some of these, because some of these wordings I've not seen before. Let's just have a look at one. Corvax, not a house I'm going to be using, but Demonic Surge, Traitorous Ambition, page 55, which has seen that one there. Forged in Terror. Once per battle, at the start of any battle round, you can select one Harbinger ability. We'll just see what that is. That ability becomes active for every model of this bond in your army, even if every unit from your army does not have the Chaos Knights keyword. Oh, okay, fair enough. So this, we see where we're going. Dread households. So your household, you obviously can pick one of the main known ones, or you can create your own, like we see in a lot of books when you're doing it. So if it does not have an associated household bond, you've got to select a bond from it from the lists. Dreadblades in your army must also have a fell bond, so they must get 2, because I suppose they're not going to get the other things for being in a battle forged army, because there's only one of them, I would imagine. Yeah. Stratagems. Now, typically, my Chaos Knight army, my Nurgle Knight army, I tend to use a lot of the pre-battle stratagems, mostly because I forget to use them, but there are some particularly nice stratagems that I will have to make sure and read through properly to make sure I can still use. And obviously there'll be different ways of using armies before, but Corrupted Heirlooms was one of my favourites to use before, so you could give more models in your army a relic, because there's some particularly nice relic weapons, or there was, I'm sure there's some even more nice ones, and Tyrannical Court, and because you can have more characters to get Warlord traits and really start to power up some of the big knights, which is great. Now this is new and this is quite exciting. So this is so you can make a knight, either Khorne here or Tzeentch, Nurgle, whatever, and there's a points class for it there. So favoured ability is something new, there's always something new. Model cannot use its favoured ability until after it's provided a worthy offering to its patron deity. Keep an offering tally for each model with a favour of the Dark Gods. Each time it destroys an enemy model, add a number of marks with tally equal to the wounds of the model it destroyed. Okay, so there's going to be a bit of bulk work here, but that's fine. So if you're a War Dog, you've got to kill 5 wounds, Tyrant 15, which might not be too hard, because to be fair, you can get some particularly devastating weaponry on some of the bigger ones, but then it powers up to whatever this secondary power is. And let's look at the Nurgle, because that's what I do. And we'll have a look at some of the Nurgle powers, but it ranges from 60 points for a Tyrant class. Some of these are actually less points on a Tyrant, so it must be some interesting powers there. And we'll see what it is. So let's just go for Aura of Corruption. Okay, rusted exhaust, its night belch clouds of toxic fumes. So nice background of the power. Gains the naval keyword, has corruption of the body, aura. Whilst naming units in 6 inches, models subtract 1 for the strength characteristic of modelling that unit. Very nice, okay, so it's debuffing your opponents. Favoured ability, so we've got to cause 15 wounds, 10 wounds, 10 wounds to make this work. Whilst naming units in 6 inches, models subtract 1 for the toughness. All very nice. So that's the same ability that Death Guard get. Now, I might be understanding this wrong, because again, I'm not, the greatest rule rememberer, but I think that would stack with the Death Guard ability, because its ability is coming from 2 different people. So, might be completely wrong. I'll have to research that, but if that's right, that could be fantastic, because I think as I mentioned before, I'm building my army up to 10,000 points to do a big game against a Warlord Titan, so that would be quite nice, having taking 2 toughness off a Warlord Titan before taking it down. Interesting, right, so tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm right. I'm sure there's lots of other rules I'd want to stack instead. So Warlord traits, yeah, so some of these are very similar. Infernal Quest, that's one before to get objectives secured. Some of these are going to be different. Warp Haunted Halls before, that was one I did use, because mostly to give a bit of ability to stop psychic powers. Now we know there is a Psychic Knight now, so that's fine. Probably still want to use that though to give yourself a couple of options to drop Psychers. Warp Storm Discipline, the new psychic power, very good. Coruscating Hate, let's look at that one. The warp charge value of 6. I think we've seen this. That's the one I've read off the cards before. Picked the wrong one. So, well, there we go. Some very nice psychic powers and a nice addition to an army. You could have a lot of psychers in your force, depending obviously what how you gear your army up, I'm assuming. So relics. I like the additional artwork and some of the pieces they've put in. It's very nice. Veil of Medringard, so I've taken that before. So again, the bearer has a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged, bearer has a 6+ invulnerable save against melee. So a very nice little add-on. Vulnerable saves, and something I typically took to stick on my Warlord. It gives it a bit more survivability to have that 4+ invulnerable rather than, the 5 from shooting. Very nice. Traitor's Mark, we've seen this, so a lot of these actually are similar. Gauntlet of Ascension, I take this typically in my army, so let's see if they've beefed it up or ruined it. Replaces a Warp Strike Claw, that's fair enough. Each time attack is made. Profiles, yeah, that's different. So obviously you can strike or sweep now, that's nice. Sweep profile, make 2 hit rolls instead of 1. Brilliant, because before it was just times 2. I took it really because in the previous one you got to re-roll hits and wounds, but that's not quite as good. Well, actually, it's nowhere near as good. It's good because you can do the sweep thing, which means actually on your knight with your claw, you can have that, and that effectively replaces the chainsword and the fist. Now, annoyingly, I've done chainsaw and fist on that model to give the 2 options of being able to have something, that wasn't -1 to hit. So the positive is it's not -1 to hit with the gauntlet, because they normally are, because it's the ×2 weapons. Negative is you're not re-rolling. But +2 strength is still going to be a particularly powerful weapon. So they have actually changed that relic, and I'm sure they've changed a lot of the relics. So if you rely on certain relics in your army, have a look, and it's going to change. Now, match play rules now. Purge the enemy, some battle rounds and some objectives and things, which is fine. So again, something to read when you look at the thing. Now, Crusade rules, I don't do Crusade, I never have done really, but I will flick through, so if anyone's interested you can obviously have a look, pause the video and read that. Never really done Crusade. I tend to play very big games of 40k a few times a year, and then smaller couple of 1,000 point games, slightly more often, but not really Crusade. So we'll flick through that. Just gives you an idea of the background. I like that little bit of a chivalrous picture of, that's Hector, I think, that is the pilot of Canis Rex without reading it. So Crusade army, nice little force there, and then into the data sheets. So here we go, about dread test. Gives you a bit about there, the dreaded abilities it mentions again. It tells you obviously the Chaos Knight miniatures. This is going to be a similar spiel from the previous book, that obviously a lot of the models you can't buy a Chaos kit for, so how that one goes. Ooh, So this is the Harbingers of Dread that was mentioned before. So every unit of your army has the Chaos Knights keyword, excluding units with the unaligned or agents of chaos keywords. Okay, this unit gains a bonus, the opposite, depending which ability is active for your army. Okay, so battle round 1, battle round 2, 3, 4, and 5 plus. Okay, let's have a look. Battle round 1. So obviously Despair, Doom, Darkness. So you have to pick and select it, I'm assuming. During the first and fifth battle round, you must select the Doom ability. Okay, you can only select Despair if you selected Despair or Doom ability in the previous battle round. Okay, and you can only select Darkness ability if you selected the Darkness or Doom. So you flick around and there we go. So let's have a look. So to start with, you're going to subtract leadership characteristic of models in that enemy unit, and each time a combat attrition test is taken, subtract 1. Okay, so that's your dread ability to start with, and then you can go through. So let's just have another pick of when we get to battle round 4. Generally everything's dead by that point. While an enemy unit is within dread range of this model, if that unit has the objective secured ability, it loses that ability. Ooh, very nice. I like that. That could be incredibly useful, especially near the end of the game, to catch those points to finish off. Now here we go into the rules. So let's see if anything has actually changed. So I'll grab some models from my Nurgle Knight army while we're doing this, and if you fancy having a look at any of these, they're all on the channel somewhere, so grab a look, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. Obviously I've got the lighting for looking at a book. So this was my War Dog Executioners, so very nice. Glad to see that they're still in there. Now looking at the stats, it doesn't look like the stat line has particularly altered. I think that looks identical. Power rating of 8. Okay, so with all the same upgrades, I'll look at this, which is fine. Obviously what's going to power it up is some of the additional abilities you can add on, so it is going to make this more powerful, and obviously whether you Nurgle it and all those kind of things will substantially increase the points. So the Stalker, the Carnivore, the Brigand, is there another? No, so that's the new 3 ways we can build that new kit. So I'm going to have a read and see what we can do. Now, the interesting one, obviously, in terms of visually, was this chap. So look, Avenger Chain Cannon, 36 range, Assault 12, oof, Strength 6, AP minus 2, damage 1 though. So it's a damage 1, so it's more of your clearing out your infantry pieces. That's pretty good, but that is quite a chunk of dice you're going to be rolling there. And Demon Breath Spear, which I imagine is what they've called it on the other War Dog Moirax or whatever it used to be called, which is a multi-shot, multi-welter basically. That's very nice. Heavy 2, 9, yeah, same sort of rules it was before, just with a different weapon fit on the model. And then we have the Stalker option and the Carnivore option, that's fine. Okay, moving on, we have the Huntsman, so that is the other of the traditional War Dogs you can make before, so that's just one of mine. Again, very nice. This was the most, I suppose, versatile before because you had a combat weapon and shooting, whereas now obviously there's the options to do that with the other War Dogs. And Knight Despoiler. Okay, so Reaper Chainsword, Warp Strike Claw, Meltagun. I think this has become slightly less purposeful now because you're not doing the -1 to hit with the claw now. So it almost invalidates the need to have a Reaper Chainsword, I think. Because, you know, the fist can pretty much do anything that the sword can do. Well, actually, 3 hit rolls. Okay, they've boosted that up. It's just a straight buff, this codex, as we always know that the codexes are. So now you can end up with 12 attacks with your chainsword, or you can end up with 8 attacks with a fist if you do that. So it does put the attacks up, I guess. So there is a slight purpose to it. Personally, I think if I was to rebuild my army now, I'd probably just have claws on them. That probably makes it easier, and they look very cool as well. Okay. Moving on through the Desecrators, I've got a knight actually to my side. So this is one of my knights. That's the very converted, very demonic knight. So this is done with a Glockin. You can see some knight legs and chainswords and things. And again, it's all on the channel. So what's beautiful about Chaos Knights, especially Nurgle, so much opportunity for conversion and into the different sort of characteristics of the various knights. So let's have a look. Desecrator, Laser Destroyer, just a straight buff. Heavy 2, Strength 14, AP -5, D3 plus 6 damage. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Knight Rampager, this is more close combat, but you can stick in pieces. Knight Abominant, now this is the new one, so this one obviously everyone's going to be interested in. A Volkite Combustor, 30-inch range, a relatively short range, but to be honest, in a lot of 40k games, you're not playing on massive tables, so it's not really an issue. that is not a weapon limiting factor nowadays, I don't think, with the board sizes. Heavy 6, okay, that's a lot of shots. Strength 10, damage 3. An unmodified rune roll of 6 inflicts 3 mortal wounds. Oh my god. Yeah, okay, that is devastating. So just on, I mean, it's clearly I'm focusing on the new knight because it's the new toy. But this is going to be the absolute ideal add-in to most Chaos armies, so expect to see these on the battlefield all over the place, because straight away that is just a devastating weapon, and it's got all the other benefits of being a knight. I think the wounds are exactly the same. They haven't changed anything like that, which is fine. Electro Scourge. Each time attack is made with this weapon, make 3 hit rolls instead of 1. So if you use the strength, it's strength 8, okay, and you're going to end up with 9 attacks. So obviously they've dropped the attacks down. Your Knight Rampager there, which is the close combat knight I use, this is the stats he goes, he gets 5 attacks. So actually 5 attacks with a chainsword, that's 15 attacks. It's worth putting a chainsword on this guy, and I do have that option. But this knight looks very good, and he gets the psychic power, so you can manifest 2 psychic powers in the psychic phase and deny 1. But it's 22 power compared to 20 power. We'll look at the points values when we get to the end, and it'll be interesting to see what this codex has done to the points of my army, especially adding those Nurgle abilities in. I think it would have massively beefed it. So Knight Tyrant. So I built my Knight Tyrant fairly recently on the channel. Now if you look and wonder why the Nurgle's Rot is matte on there, it's because I've matte varnished this, and what I haven't done quite yet is gone back through and given another layer of Nurgle's Rot on the paintwork. So always worth protecting your models, and my models are, although converted and whatever, primarily gaming pieces. So, you know, this is how I've done mine. So I did him with a tentacle arms at the side. And that could be used with the spear rules, because the guys I play with aren't going to be bothered by that, and it's a short range sort of weapon. But I was kind of hoping that these Electro Scourge rules they were going to add into other knights, and that's what I was going to use it as. But looking at this, the Electro Scourge rules are on there, so it's clearly not an option. And this looks like it's been given the exact same rules as it was before, just beefing up by the stacking abilities that you can do. So nice big weapon profile things. I keep looking at a volcanic combustor. Yeah, we know it's devastating, and some of this looks tooled up as you'd expect. Some of it's going to be tooled down eventually, I'm sure. And point stuff. So the point values, so again, bear in mind that these are probably all going to get errated and changed fairly soon, but the points values on this have definitely changed from prior. So I'll be interested if my overall army does dramatically increase in points, so we'll have a look on that one. And you get the glossary at the end and the reference. So that's a flick through the book. A very nice codex on initial view. Clearly how it's going to impact in playing the game and the army list is going to take a bit more digging in than just 10 minutes flicking through a book, but it does look a very, very nice codex. So I'll be really interested to see what this has impacting on the game. So let's build some figures. Okay, so in the background there we've got the build going on in super speed. Managed to stab myself on the spikes on the gun shroud with a kit there, so watch that when you're building. I managed to not cut myself with my knife, but you know, a spiky part of the model, there you go, you can stab it there. It's a really nice kit. Nice to have another option for the Chaos Knights. And I don't know how this is going to come out individually, but the really nice thing about this, there was loads and loads and loads of spares left at the end. So although I didn't magnetise this kit, I have shown on the channel how to magnetise before. You could magnetise this kit to give you so many options, it would be bonkers. So really good kit for that purpose. Goes together really nicely, and I've said a few times on the channel, don't be afraid of the big kits like this. I think you can get a bit intimidated by the size and the cost, let's be honest, of the kit, and I think you can ruin a model that costs you a lot of money. You don't. It's actually a lot easier sometimes to build and paint these larger kits because they're very forgiving in terms of when you build and assemble them. Take your time, you know, concentrate on the instructions. Decent set of instructions on this one, to be honest, not too difficult. So I would heartily recommend, you know, having a go at this. I can absolutely see that this model is going to appear in lots and lots of Chaos armies because the rules are really good, as we've had a very quick flick through, and obviously during the build when I was letting things dry I was having another flick through the rule book and things on the new codex, and it's a very, very nice set of rules that this model is going to come with. Quite a high points model, you know, but a really good way of bulking up an army. We know 40k is expensive, but sometimes buying a knight that takes up, you know, a quarter of your force can be a really good way of doing that, and it is a very good centerpiece for the army. So really enjoyed the build. I've built lots of knights. I'm not going to do any conversion work particularly on this, so you know, that's kind of a measure, I suppose, of how the build has gone. When I first saw this model, I wasn't going to use these birds and things to stick on, but the more I saw it, the more I played, and I thought, yes, I'm doing this. So a really, really nice kit. For me not to want to convert, especially a Nurgle model, is quite rare. So kudos to GW. Now onto the War Dogs, or the Armiger class models. These go together for the most part exactly like any of the other Armigers, and I've built a lot of these by now, because as well as having them for my Nurgle army that you've seen, I've also done some from Imperial and various other pieces. So I batch build Armigers, and this is a bit of a tip I would give at this point. If you lay the sprues out in front of you, like you can see here, you find the pieces, you cut them off. Now, the pieces are scattered across the sprues, so if you're batch building, the really useful thing is, because you've just taken those pieces off the first sprue, it's quicker to locate them on the second sprue and cut them out. The cleaning process is quicker because you learn on the first one where the bits you need to scrape off are, and then you can clean them all up, put them all together, and it means that they're starting to set and the model will dry before you move on to the next bit. So it definitely speeds it up when you're doing a couple at once rather than working on one then working on the other. The only time I wouldn't do that is when you come to the arms. Now, if you're going to magnetise the arms, you will probably quite quickly see where the ideal sort of section is magnetised, kind of just off the shoulder. There's the pieces that clamp down onto the weapon. Now, what I would do is not stick that piece on, and you can build all the different weapon options and sort of magnetise either side to stick them on. Now, I'm not doing that. Now, if you're not doing that, I would single build the arms, and the reason I say that is I like to glue them into position. There's lots of sections where it says don't glue. That's great, you can pose and everything. Two problems with that is they'll droop all the time and they end up in positions that don't look great. And the second one is when you've painted them, because it moves and moves about, it starts to wear off paint in places, which if you use it a lot and you play a lot of games, you are going to start wearing the paint off. So personally for me, if I'm not magnetising the arms, I will glue them into place, and even when I do magnetise, I will make sure it's glued into place apart from that section where the magnet is. Just so a bit of a tip there. So what I do is I lay out all the pieces for the arm. This is the claw in this question. Clean them all up, glue it together fairly quickly, put it onto the model, pose it into the position, and then the glue will dry and set it into a really cool kind of gaming-like position that looks good, rather than being, you know, drooping down to its side or whatever. But again, knock yourself out. Ripe for magnetising, like I said with the previous night. So many parts, you could easily magnetise this through all the different weapons. I just picked it with the one that looked the coolest, with the new weaponry, so the new claw that we've not seen, the new autocannon style thing that we've not seen, and the missile pods on the carapace. So that's just kind of what I thought looked the best, and that's how I'm going to build it. In terms of would I recommend these models, absolutely, really nice, really good. Better than the Imperial Armigers, clearly, because they've got chaos symbols on them, although I do love converting models, and you'll see on the channel, convert a lot of them. You've shown the models on here that I convert. Definitely I would go for these ones if I was starting a chaos army and I didn't really fancy converting, because the weapon options and things on them are great. So yeah, heartily recommend it. So let's take a look now kind of at the finished model. So here is the big guy, the new Knight Abominant, the one that's going to appear in all the different armies, as I'm sure. Standard weapon fit, I've glued them together. I didn't mention earlier, but the tail is what's called a bale mace, which does D3 additional attacks for that weapon, so very useful. The Volkite weapon he's got, we discussed, really good. And it's just a beautiful model more than anything else. You know, I did one extra eagle-y thing that's on there that I took from the Armiger kit, that's on there, but everything else is built as standard, built the instructions. Again, this is a very different model. I wanted to use it exactly as is in the army. Now, in terms of the War Dog size, again, as I said, I've built them in one particular style because I think it's a beautiful thing. Different heads, I've posed them differently, and just a really nice addition to the Chaos Army. And I really like the missile pods on top. And again, we didn't talk about the rules for that, but that little multi-launch that's on there, 48-inch range, and you can shoot stuff you can't see, so just something very, very different. So here's some shots of the final models. I hope you like that. Like, comment, subscribe, follow the channel. I'll be painting and doing all this stuff fairly soon.